Welcome to 11 Recaps. If you enjoy this summary, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. It really helps me keep bringing you engaging content. Ready for your support? Awesome, thank you. Let's dive in. In a realm rooted in medieval traditions, a royal family grapples with the absence of a male successor after the king and queen bear no sons. Their firstborn, a determined princess, seeks to shatter the era's conventions by establishing herself as a capable sovereign. Under the guidance of Lynn, the castle's seasoned combat instructor, she hones her skills in close-quarters fighting and swordsmanship. Beyond martial prowess, she immerses herself in the study of governance and ethics, aspiring to lead with wisdom. Yet her father, a staunch traditionalist, insists she embrace the expected duties of marriage and motherhood. The king, fixated on securing a male ruler for his throne, arranges her betrothal to Julius, the sole heir of an influential noble envoy. Julius, a fierce and unyielding warrior, seems destined to claim the crown following their union, settling the matter, or so it appears. On the day of the ceremonial exchange of rings, the princess boldly refuses the match. 2 mornings later, she awakens in a locked chamber, her head throbbing as if it might split apart. Dressed in bridal garments, her wrists bound by chains, she struggles to piece together the fog of the prior evening, recollections of masked intruders forcing a bitter potion into her mouth. Regaining her senses, she scans the room for an escape route. An open window beckons, but it reveals only a perilous plunge into the ocean far below. As she turns to inspect the door, the sound of nearing footsteps freezes her in place. She darts back to the bed, feigning unconsciousness. Moments later, 2 burly, menacing figures stride in, their intentions dark. One leans uncomfortably close, his breath hot against her face. In an instant, her eyes snap open, and she slams her forehead into his. Springing from the bed, she wrenches a hand free from the shackles, grimacing as she twists her thumb out of joint. With the chain now a makeshift flail, she lashes it across one man's face. In a relentless surge, she drives a hairpin into the eye of her assailant, felling him lifeless to the floor. The second man charges, clawing to seize her, but she sidesteps and lures him toward the window. With a deft kick, she sends him tumbling into the abyss. Before she can catch her breath, the echo of more boots reverberates down the corridor, drawing closer to her prison. She swiftly snatches a hefty mallet resting close by and conceals herself behind the door. The moment it swings open, she smashes it down on the thug entering to check on his comrades. Freeing herself from her restraints at last, she positions the lifeless soldiers' bodies to give the impression they're still standing guard. Afterward, the princess dashes to the closest washroom and peers out the window to gauge her surroundings. A chilling scene unfolds before her, her family shackled in the courtyard below. Julius approaches them shortly after, flanked by his trusted guard and his companion Moira. The king seizes the moment to argue that Julius' father, a peace-loving diplomat, would condemn his brutal tactics. Julius, unmoved, scoffs at this, dismissing both his father and the king as spineless idealists. He goes further, condemning the king for abandoning their customs and embracing foreigners rather than subjugating them. The king counters that true leadership cannot rely solely on intimidation, but Julius insists the people crave a ruler who exudes strength. With that, he commands his troops to march the royal family off to the dungeons. From her vantage point high in a nearby tower, the princess witnesses it all. Her mind flashes back to 2 days prior when she rejected Julius' proposal. That defiance sparked the assault on her kingdom, and now her parents face the consequences too. Her thoughts are cut short as a soldier barges into the washroom. She slips into a nearby tub, submerging herself fully underwater. Fortunately, the soldier's helmet obscures his view, and he misses the telltale bubbles rising to the surface. Once he departs, the princess emerges, tears off her drenched gown, and slips away. She navigates the corridors stealthily, evading foes by tuning into the sound of their boots. All seems to go smoothly until a massive, iron-helmed brute seizes her by the throat. She flails, striking his arm with desperate fists, but he doesn't budge. Undeterred, she showcases her sharp fighting instincts by clapping both hands against his helmet. The reverberation leaves him reeling in agony, forcing him to let go. Seizing the moment, she delivers a swift kick to his groin. A clever move, but it barely registers with the hulking figure. He retaliates by grabbing her throat again, only for her to slam his helmet into the wall and break free. As he charges her like a furious beast, she scales the wall, leaps onto his shoulders and twists his helmet, momentarily robbing him of sight. The assailant attempts to shove her into the stone wall, but the princess deftly snatches his helmet and lands gracefully. She drives the helmet's horns into his chest, then smashes it against his skull, ending the brute's life. Pausing to catch her breath after the brutal clash, a memory floods her mind. She remembers her mentor, Lin, who instilled in her that true strength lies in battling for justice. During a lesson, the queen had voiced her disapproval, insisting Lin should focus on refining the princess's grace, not teaching her to brawl like a soldier. Undeterred, Lin argued that a noblewoman must master both poise and combat in equal measure. Snapping back to the present, a squad of guards drags in the corpse of a man the princess had hurled from the castle's tower. This unnerves Julius, who directs his deputy, Kerr, to check on her before securing the castle gate. Kerr, in turn, delegates the task to a sluggish, portly soldier with little to recommend him. Frustrated, the princess slips away, concealing herself in the tower's sewing chamber. She tears at her wedding dress, freeing her arms and legs for better movement. As she tends to her wounds, two soldiers burst in. A furious skirmish erupts, and she swiftly plunges a blade into one of them. With a quick yank, she pulls lace from her gown and uses it to truss up the second soldier. Grabbing a crossbow, she demands answers about Julius's actions against her kin. When the bound man mocks her, questioning her skill, she spins and fires, striking his companion dead center in the chest. Unfazed, the soldier keeps taunting her, prompting her to silence him with an arrow through his forehead. Seizing the fallen soldier's sword, she exits the sewing chamber and descends the stairs, slipping into a hidden corridor tucked behind the dining hall's heavy walls. Peering through a small gap, she spots mercenaries pillaging the room's riches. Most are too drunk and distracted, stuffing their pockets, to notice her. The princess glides silently across the dining hall, unnoticed, and ducks into another concealed passage at the far end. It soon becomes clear she's reached her private chambers, where a prized weapon lies stashed. A flashback surfaces. Lin, drilling into her the mantra of fighting with soul. Kai, Lin's uncle and the king's trusted confidant, had also guided her training, recognizing her potential to grow into a fierce, honorable fighter. He'd gifted her a stunning short sword, a family treasure with an edge that never dulled. Fueled by resolve, she retrieves the blade and gear from beneath her bed, then retreats into the passage once more. Descending the stairs, she unexpectedly catches snippets of a conversation between Julius and Moira about wedding plans. Moira questions why Julius doesn't seize the throne by force. He explains that a traditional marriage, even if coerced, ensures his rise to power remains unchallenged. Overcome with envy, the consort locks lips with Julius, and they start to get intimate. Hidden behind a wall, the princess prepares to thrust her blade through a tiny gap at Julius. Her scheme is thwarted when a guard bursts in, informing Julius that the king demands his presence. "What did I say about disrupting my private time?" Julius snaps. Soon after, the king confronts Julius, cautioning that claiming the crown will be viewed as betrayal by the people. Julius insists the marriage isn't treasonous. Meanwhile, the princess emerges from a vent, landing beneath a suit of armor. Assuming it's merely ornamental, she ignores it, until the armored figure lunges at her with a blade. With swift reflexes, she evades the strikes and lands a few blows of her own. The knight's armor, however, resists all attacks. Thinking fast, the princess targets its joints with her sword, then douses it with oil from a lamp and ignites it with a candle. The armor blazes, roasting the knight within. In a panic, he leaps from a window into the courtyard below. Witnessing this, Moira, exasperated by Kerr's failures, uses her whip to slit his throat. Taking charge of Julius' forces, she commands a sweep of the castle tower. Soon, the princess finds herself surrounded by soldiers flooding upward. She tears off her necklace, scattering beads to trip her pursuers. Stepping over their shields, she dashes away, but the odds overwhelm her. Scanning her surroundings, she devises an escape. Leaping through a window, she grips a tapestry and swings into another room across the tower. As she bandages her wounds, someone enters. It's Lin, the castle's weapons master and her mentor. Lin treats her injuries and reveals her family is imprisoned below. They descend through the kitchen to the dungeons, only to be ambushed by 3 brutal mercenaries. The princess tackles 2 while Lin takes on the largest. The master swiftly downs her foe and aids the princess, together dispatching another thug. As the third charges, Moira arrives. A fierce combatant, Moira wields her whip with deadly precision, striking Lynn, who deflects it with her arm. The princess rushes to help, but Moira's speed outmatches her. Facing defeat, Lynn holds Moira back, urging the princess into the sewers. Emerging in the dungeon, she finds 3 inebriated guards and swiftly overcomes them. With her family watching proudly, she disarms the guards, grabs a sword, and frees her parents and younger sister, Violet. Before they can flee, a blow knocks her unconscious. She awakens in the guest hall, her family and Lynn shackled beside her. Julius berates her for the chaos, but she bites his hand in defiance. Furious, he strikes her, insisting she's destined to be his bride. In a chilling tone, she vows that once wed, he'll never sleep soundly, as she'll plot his demise ceaselessly. This backfires as Julius deems her too wild and opts to marry Violet instead, ordering Moira to execute her. The princess kicks a guard's sword into the air, halting Moira. Lynn seizes the moment, escaping with Violet through a hidden passage. Then, a soldier hurls the princess out a window into the sea. Sinking, she recalls her training and doubts about her resilience. Thinking of Violet's fate, she finds strength, cuts her bonds with a shard and swims upward. Later, back in the castle, she reunites with Violet and Lynn. They arm themselves in a secret storeroom, leaving Violet behind as the two venture out to face Julius' troops, only to see Violet captured. The princess battles toward the hall where Julius coerces a priest to wed him and Violet. Kai, now freed, scatters the guests, halting the ceremony. Seizing the chance, the princess clashes with Moira in a grueling fight. Bruised but determined, she chokes Moira with her own whip. With Moira defeated, she charges inside to confront Julius, her ultimate foe. They clash, swords flashing. Unwounded, Julius stabs her with a dagger and tosses her into the courtyard before a crowd. As he boasts, she recalls Lynn's words, "Strike with patience." While he revels, she snatches his sword and beheads him. Julius' head rolls, and she restores the crown to her father. The film closes with the king naming her his successor.